thanks for stopping by at Twisted Art Designs. This is the last video in the series on our Paper Dolls altered book. I have it completed on the inside, and now I'm going to decorate the cover. Since I started this project, I've been saving in a folder all kinds of paper doll things that I wasn't sure what I was going to choose to use in the book, so I've just kept it all in a folder. And I think what I'm going to do on the outside of the book is kind of a collage about all different paper doll things that I've collected. These are like photographs of Edwardian paper dolls from the 1900s and just different types of paper dolls and different styles, and I thought those would be kind of fun to have them collaged all over the front. And then I'm going to put a title on the front and maybe do the paper doll book, or I don't know, I'll have to think about that. But I'm going to go ahead and do a background, and then I'm going to start collaging some of these images all over the outside of the book for interest. So the cover of the book had a title on the front that I'm going to try and peel off this piece of paper that's on the front as best I can. And then I'm going to put a layer of, let's see if this comes off any better. Yeah, it does. So I'm going to go ahead and peel all that off just so that it's a nice even surface. And then I'm going to apply white gesso all over the outside of the book. Okay, I've applied a nice even coat of black gesso all over my cover, and now I'm going to let that dry. I do want to add some texture to my background, but I am going to Mod Podge all my images on first and then add the texture second, which for some people that may be backwards, but I don't want texture underneath where I'm Mod Podging down all my images because I want them to be really flat. So follow along. Maybe you like this process, maybe you won't, but it's kind of my process. So I'm going to let this dry, and then I'm going to start collaging all my paper doll images and Mod Podging them down to the book. I'm just going to take a stencil and a couple of colors of acrylic paint and just add some interesting designs to the front of the book. So I'm just going to use a stencil and a cosmetic sponge, and I'm just going to go in and stencil in some colors and design here and there that are going to go behind the images that I'm going to Mod Podge to the front. And then I am still going to add texture, but I just wanted a basic layer behind the images as well. So I'm going to go ahead and do a whole bunch of stenciling all over the book. So I've added a very simplistic stenciling to my book in 3 different colors and 3 different patterns, just to give it a little bit of a grunge and a little bit of a background. I want my images to be in the back and the texture to be forward. So next I'm going to go ahead and lay out my images that I'm going to use. I'm not sure which ones yet, and Mod Podge them onto the cover of the book. So I have my images Mod Podged down to my book all the way around. And next what I'm going to do is take some sandpaper. I'm using a sanding block, and I'm going to go ahead and distress by sanding some areas. It'll sand off the gesso, it'll go down back down to my green cover, and I'm going to sand into the images that I've put down and just distress the whole thing. Now that I've got my sanding and distressing all done, I love the distressed look everywhere. I like to sand on paper. Now I'm going to go back in and I'm going to add some more texture. So I'm going to use things like some pattern paper tissue, some of this pretty mesh. I have all different kinds of mesh and things like this. So I'm going to go in and I'm going to add in some texture, like with the patterned paper. I'm going to just take a little piece of it. I'm going to crinkle it really good. I'm going to put some texture right here, and I'm just adding some more interest. I don't want it to cover up her, and I want it to be really crunchy. crunchy for texture. And then I'm just putting some Mod Podge over it. I love that. And once that dries, I'll peel that off the edge. Actually, let's see if I can do it now. No, I'm going to wait till it dries. So I'm going to leave that on there. So I'm going to just go around now and add some interesting texture in a few spots just to add some more interest. So I've added texture of all different kinds to the front here. You can see that there is sewing pattern paper. There's mesh I've put on her skirt that's kind of like a burlappy type of lace, but it was thin, so I put that over her skirt. Just adding interest and texture all over the place. So now what I'm going to do is completely let that dry, and then I'm going to go around the back edge of the spine here and do the back the same thing. Okay, so I've added my bits of texture to the back as well. I've got all different kinds of things, mesh and pieces of tissue paper and lace and all kinds of things to the back and to the spine. I love it. It's nice and grungy. And then to the front, I went ahead and, while I was waiting for some of my stuff to dry, I decorated my paper doll girl that I put on the front. I used some wool to give her hair and put some flowers in her hair. I gave her some pearls with liquid pearl, added a vintage button and some tulle that covers the playing with paper dolls sign, and then I added some lace to her skirt. So it's coming together, and then I did punch a hole in the top of the spine and put a jump ring for hanging some dangles. And now I'm going to take some golden fluid acrylic and shake it up, and I'm going to just put a drop of it down here, a drop or two down on my piece of paper that my magazine that I use as a palette. And I'm using a stiff bristled brush and dry brush and just picking up some of that gold. And now I'm going to come in here and I'm going to add some gold. So I'm going over those texture pieces lightly, and look at what it does. It's just gorgeous. It adds a really nice touch of gold, and I'm going to bring that gold around all my edges to kind of create a gold look around the whole edge. And then of course going over the papers and the texture, just adding a little bit here and there on the image and putting in my gold. It makes it really, really pretty. I love that look, that gold look. Okay, so I finished my cover, and the next video will be a flip through of the completed book.